Okay, so we know that we're going to be constructing part of the model and working with a view controller to establish the view. But where does our code go? One of the biggest challenges facing a developer working with an unfamiliar framework and template is figuring out in the control flow, which is the sequence in which messages are sent during execution, where in the control flow do you put the code to get something done? Now let's start with the MyWorldApp object. As you may recall, here's how the template sets up the MyWorldApp. First, UI application loads the parts of the main window.xib resource file it needs to create MyWorldAppDelegate and the window. Then UI application sends the MyWorldAppDelegate the application did finish launching with options message. And so the application did finish launching with options method here in MyWorldAppDelegate adds the main view controller's view to the window and the display. Note that the application did finish launching with options message is sent at the very beginning before the user can even see anything on the screen. Here's where you'd insert code to initialize your app. And here, in fact, is the place where it's commented out the override point for customization after the app launches. Here's where you'd insert your code to initialize your app and load data, for example, or restore the state of the application to where it was the last time the user exited. And we'll be doing that later in the MyWorldApp for establishing the user's preferences. But for now, where we want to put our model and view controller code is in the controller object, which is main view controller. This is the controller responsible for managing the main view. In fact, if you looked at the code in mainViewController.m, you'd see the following commented out code. This is where the view did load message comes in, right after the view has been loaded from the nib file. This is the place where you insert your code for view initialization, which in the case for the MyWorldApp means displaying the following words. Although I don't use it in this example, you could also make use of the view will appear message, which is sent right after a view did load and right before the view will appear. This would be a place to insert your code to do anything needed before the view became visible. Both view did load and view will appear are methods declared in the UI view controller class and are invoked at the appropriate times by the framework. So, in order to add the code we need to display the following words, we first open mainViewController.h, and we're going to type code exactly where it belongs. In this case, we're going to establish our variables, the following image, the following words, the speed, and a timer. And we're going to do it here in the interface directive. We're going to click between the brackets and start typing, and we'll see how Xcode's editor helps us do the typing for us. We start with the UI image. As you see, UI image pops up immediately, and we can hit tab and continue. And we'll put a tab and space in and type the first variable. Following image. Following image will hold the following words as an image so that we can animate it. Next, we type the following words string. NS string, already half typed for us, is a character string. It's an easy way to define a string. We're going to call that one following words. We're going to add a speed variable. It'll be a double, and we're going to have a timer. And we'll use NS timer. And we'll call that word timer. So we use the NS timer class to create a timer so that we can have a cycle of animation. Now that we've declared these things, we have to actually write code that uses these things. So now we're going to move over to mainViewController.m, and here we're going to work on the viewDidLoad method. First, we're going to take out these comments so that it becomes active. Now we have a viewDidLoad method. It starts with a super viewDidLoad. One of the things we're going to want to do is change the background color. So let's do that. We're going to refer to the view and its background color. And we're going to make that a UI color and use the color with red to provide us with a decent color. Put in a 0.5 for red, 0.3 for green, 0.7 for blue, and 1 for alpha. Close the brackets, and as you see, it shows us where the other bracket is so that we know we're doing the right thing. End with a semicolon. Now what does that do? The color with red, green, blue, and alpha creates and returns a color object using the specified opacity and RGB component values. So we got the red component, the green component, the blue component, and the alpha, which is the opacity value of the color object. And they're all specified with a value between 0 to 1. Next, we'll establish the timer. NS timer, scheduled with timer interval of 0.5. Now, we're not going to use the invocation method. We're going to instead specify target of itself, a selector to be our onTimer method, which we're going to write. User info will be nil, and yes for repeats. Close the bracket and semicolon. Next, we establish falling words. Notice that it already knows we're trying to do that and completes the word for us. Very smart, Xcode. And we're going to do that by allocating a string, close bracket, and we're going to initialize the string with the words peace on earth. Finally, we're going to set the speed itself 10.0. So now we've set up the background color, the timer, the falling words itself, although later on we're probably going to have the words peace on earth be able to be changed by the user, and that'll be a user preference. So we'll be changing this code later to accommodate user preferences and changes in the flip side view. But for now, we're setting it up with an initialized string before the user can change it, so that there at least is a string to display when the user first taps the app. Well, now we still need an onTimer method, so let's type that in. We start with a dash. Not going to need any return, so void onTimer. And once we type the first bracket, it fills in the last one, so we're ready to type in the statements for this method. Now we're going to create a UI label, which is a class that implements a read-only text view. We can use it to draw one or multiple lines of static text or other types of text. In this case, we're going to use it to establish the falling words. And that's because it provides control over the appearance of the text, including whether or not it uses a shadow or draws with a highlight. So we can customize the appearance of the text. So we're going to create a UI label for falling image view. That's the name of the UI label. Allocate the UI label and initialize with a frame size. We're going to make a rectangle for it, and the dimensions are 0, 0, 200, 200. Close brackets and with a semicolon. Now we've defined our UI label as falling image view, and we've established its rectangle and its size. Now we're going to put text in it. We need falling image view dot text, and that will be our falling words, of course. Semicolon. Now we need the falling image view text color. For that, we'll do color. We want it to be white color. We want the falling image view dot font to be our UI font system font of size 60. Close bracket. We'll establish the background color. Falling image view background color. This is the background color of the label itself. UI color with white 0 alpha close bracket and semicolon. And we want the font to be adjustable to fit the width, depending on what the user types for falling words. So for falling image view, adjusts font size to fit width equals yes. That was easy. So now we have a partial onTimer method. We're going to stop right here and take stock of what we have. We have a UI label that we've defined. We have a viewDidLoad method that sets the background color of the view. And we've got our string initialized with peace on earth, as well as our speed. And we're going to be adding a lot more to this view, including an add banner. So before we actually display the view, we're going to be doing some things with it. But let's recap. The viewDidLoad method changes the background color of the main view and sets up a timer for the interval between each display of falling words or images if we want to choose images later. You need to have some kind of interval between each display in order to have animation. So we've changed the background color with viewDidLoad method to a color with red 0.5, green 0.3, blue 0.7, alpha 1. We also allocated a string for falling words. An NSString object represents a character string. Representing strings as objects allows you to use strings whenever you use other objects. It also provides the benefits of encapsulation, so that string objects can use whatever encoding and storage are needed for efficiency while simply appearing as arrays of characters. In this case, falling words is initialized with the string peace on earth, and the speed, which is a variable, is initialized with the value 10. In onTimer, we started with the UI label, which implements a read-only text view. We initialize it with frame method, which initializes and returns a newly allocated view object with the specified frame rectangle. We use CGRRectMake to create the rectangle with the x-coordinate and y-coordinate of the rectangle's origin point at 0, 0, and a specified width and height, 200 by 200. Then the code converts the falling words string to falling image view for display. It sets up the text color, the font, the background color, and adjust the font size to fit the width of the label. Now, these font and text color properties apply to the entire text string. So here we've established our following words in a label with a proper text color, a font, a proper background color, and it adjusts to fit the width of the label depending on what the user types for the text. And right now the text has been initialized with the string peace on earth.